Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Check Me. I try to do the best I can to cover all sports and kind of major issues that come up during sports, but this is a different one than what I normally talk about. I want to talk about this Howard softball situation, and if you don't know what's going on, I think it's a good, interesting story to kind of read and see what happened in the situation. So, Howard softball team was pretty much doing an East Coast trip where they were playing several softball teams on the West Coast. And they're going to come back, and play, their regular in-season games. Essentially, what happened on their West Coast trip, they played different teams, but they came to when they played UC Irvine, they dealt with an umpire in the situation who was kind of, treating the team in an ill-mannered way. And what you can see in some of the videos here, that the umpire at times is rushing them. At times is hurrying the pitcher up, hurrying the catcher up, pointing his finger, being disrespectful during this game. And eventually, they had to forfeit the game. But the umpire was just kind of in the situation, just being a little bit disrespectful to this Howard team. Now, this is something that happened throughout the whole game, and essentially a moment came up during, I think, the third or fourth inning when Howard was going on defense, and, typically in the situation, the pitcher and the catcher would get a couple of throws in, and, just to get warmed up, and they get one throw to a certain base, and then they start. Now, this time period is usually, regulations say it's 90 seconds, and if you look at the regulations and what it actually says, what is allowed. So for all games, media or non-media, teams are allowed a maximum of 90 seconds between innings at the start of the game for warm-ups. During this time, the pitcher is allowed to throw any number of warm-up pitches. The pitcher may only throw to the first base once, right? Typically, it's where, pop flies, ground outs, whatever, a bunt, that they'll get that one throw, so they try to give them one throw to first base. The time limit may be shortened by mutual agreement between the two teams or by conference tournament policy. So if the two teams can say, hey, look, we want longer time, or the conference, says, hey, look, teams are allowed to do this or whatever, and they agree on it, however that works out, right? This is the rule that actually just changed this year. This is the new rules for this particular season. It also said if media requires a longer time between innings and at the start of the game, that time will become the maximum allowable time. So if it's a televised game, once it's time, the commercial's over, media's, says time to go, it's time to go. Now, at the end of the time limit, if the defense team is not ready to play, a ball will be awarded to the batter, and if the offense team is not ready to play, a strike will be assessed to the batter. Right. The reasoning behind this is to improve the pace and flow of the game by standardizing the time between innings to 90 seconds for all games, media or non-media, and allowing pitchers to throw any number of warm-up pitches during this time between innings. Currently, media games are allowed a maximum of 2 minutes, and non-media games are no set limit. So, essentially, these are the rules that laid out. So, what happened was this. Throughout the game, and you can see from the footage, the UC Irvine team had plenty of time throughout the innings. Even when it felt like Howard was getting 90 seconds, they were getting rushed by this umpire. This umpire apparently had had to go somewhere, whatever the situation is. So the situation happened, and the head coach Torrey Tyson, as you can see from the videos, confronted the umpire, mentioned that the freshman pitcher that she had in was this is her first time, getting used to it, getting acclimated to pitching, and she said that this is what the freshman pitcher thought was the norm. She thought this was the norm. So what happened was there was a conflict between the pitcher and the umpire. The umpire, at times waved her off. The umpire gave her a warning, and then to essentially ejecting her. And then in the rule, it also states that if let me pull the rule up here, if a player and or coach refuses to leave the game after being ejected, that team forfeits that game, and that's what happened here. So apparently, according to the umpire, the coach refused to leave, and Tyson refused to leave, and they had to forfeit the game. Now, this does not sit well with Tyson, and this does not sit well with, you know, pretty much a lot of people in the softball community. Just kind of starting off, Tori Tyson went on in an array of tweets to explain the situation. And she kind of started off. She said, "Tomorrow my team is taking the field without me as I'm serving a 2-day." So she got a 2-game suspension for not being quiet about this issue and kind of raising awareness about this issue of the game that actually happened on March 4th. Now, she went on to say, and she starts going over the situation, and she says, "Give me 1 second here." She on her Twitter account. She starts, and I'll show you guys here. She starts giving a scenario of the situation. She explains it. She provides video evidence of what happened. The umpire actually submitted something that was different than what actually happened, and she continued to be vocal about it on Twitter and just in normal conversation. So what? So she got 2-game suspension from the NCAA. And here's the tricky thing, all right? So she explains everything. According to what she said, what really frustrated her was the comment the umpire made to her freshman catcher, who was unaware of the inappropriateness, in which he told her she was moving too slow. Don't know why, right? And she went on to say, I own not standing down because I want to show women that a woman, especially a black woman, has to stand down and shut up in a sport, made from women, played by women. I think she meant not, not stand down. So I demanded an explanation for the initial issue of why he kept ending their warm up and why I was warned, and now my ejection. The same protocol for processing ejection suspension was followed. That's what they said, that the NCAA rules. However, the NCAA Softball Rules Committee can discuss improving protocols related to the process ejection suspension reports, and they will take her suggestions in consideration. Now, here's the big thing. Unfortunately, there's no appeal process, and the NCAA softball playing rules don't allow for ejection suspension to be overturned. Right, so this is something that is set in stone until the year over year. Then she went on to say, I will not serve in vain, my suspension in vain. My babies deserve better. Wasn't about 9 seconds. This was about one man impacting the game, dehumanizing my athletes and myself. I will never stand down nor apologize for it. So I want to say that because of this. And we think about softball, we think about HBCUs. Why was this demeaned? Now, HBCUs have just been gaining over the couple of years, getting softball teams. It's something new that has been introduced to the black community. I hate to say it, black girls didn't grow up. Black girls didn't grow up playing softball. Now, is this team totally compromised of only black athletes? No. But majority of the athletes are black. It's a black school, right? It's a HBCU. And you're coming from the East Coast to the West Coast, from D.C. to UC Irvine, which is, believe it or not, UC Irvine is a predominantly Asian school, but you only have 2% black people in there. Now, 3% of the faculty are represented by blacks, but 2% of the population is represented by blacks. So you may have this dynamic here, and I said that like HBCUs, the reason why it's so fresh and you're starting to see more black women get into softball is because it's an expensive sport. You can't just, with basketball, football, you can pick it up. Soccer, you can pick it up and play it anytime you want. And these are sports dominated by minorities, right? When you think about playing softball, you have to get on a travel team to play. That costs money. The equipment, it costs money. It's an expensive sport, which a lot of black people don't play. So there's a certain type of eliteness and class that's associated, and then when you are a black athlete and the black player playing softball, it's almost like you're not inclusive. It's not inclusive for you because the sport and how it operates is almost out of how you normally operate. Now that's changing and not for everybody, but the question is why the umpire treat them this way. Why was his behavior like this? And is this a consistent behavior that he's shown? And I'm not sure if they look at footage and seen, they shown throughout him being an umpire. I personally, from the video, I do think there was something wrong with him. I'm not sure why he rushed them. I'm not sure why it came to a situation where he felt the need to to do this, and he was not doing that to the UC Irvine team. As you saw from the footage, they had ample time or just enough time to do what they need to do. But the softball community is standing behind her, and this is what you want to see, right? You want to be in an environment where the sport checks itself for the good, for the better. And you see in this letter, she wrote she's been receiving so much support from the softball community. And I think it's something that they need to look into for this individual situation, and and look into this ump and the individual situation, as well as look at, okay, how can they better, because this rule was just implemented in 2022, 2023. Especially with the exposure of women's sports, now they're getting televised, and then more news networks showing it, showing women's sports more often. This is something that I think needs to be looked into the individual incident and see why. I'm not saying it's race, it's racism. I don't know what the situation was, but from the looks of it, you can tell that he wasn't happy with Howard being there from the way he treated him, and that's all I'm gonna say. Now, one thing I do know is Howard's an HBCU. I'm thinking of like Bowie State just creating, just has their first season of softball this year. As a D2 school. Now Howard, you can throw a rock and hit Bowie State, but Howard in the same exact situation is getting treated unfairly. So. Hey, look, I hope that the NCAA does more to look into this. I'm not saying that it's a race or woman's issue, because he wasn't doing it at UC Irvine, but it does look like it. There's something there that needs to be looked at.